On this episode of Up Gunners, our review of the Coventry match, the latest reaction to the Martinelli situation, and a little message for those who seem to enjoy Arsenal almost as much as we do. This is Up Gunners. My name is Tony Dell. Welcome. Well. The Premier League is back, Arsenal are back, and your defending champions have wasted absolutely no time reminding everybody that they're not here to hand over the title quietly. 3-0 against Coventry City at the Emirates, and I have to say I got my prediction right. I called Arsenal to win 3-0 before kickoff. In fact, from the previous episode, you hear me say it. And there were a few others who saw it coming as well. So for once, the prediction gods were kind to us. We can enjoy that one for a moment. But beyond getting the scoreline right, what did we actually learn from Arsenal's opening game of the new season? For me, the biggest takeaway is that Arsenal looked like a team that understood exactly what was required of them. There was no unnecessary drama, no panic, there was no need for a late goal to rescue the afternoon or evening. Arsenal took control, scored their goals, kept Coventry at arm's length and finished the job professionally. That is what champions are supposed to do. Kai Havertz got the opening goal, Bukayo Saka added the second, and Martin Odegaard put the game beyond Coventry shortly after halftime. And I particularly liked the spread of those goals because they tell us something about the different ways Arsenal can hurt teams. Havertz leading the line and finding the right position, Saka doing what Saka does, and Odegaard, our captain, arriving with that sense of authority that we want to see from him this season. That third goal was important because it effectively ended the contest. At 3-0, Arsenal did not need to go chasing a fourth or fifth goal. They could manage the game, conserve energy, and think about the long season ahead. And that's going to be very, very important this season. Because defending the Premier League title is a completely different challenge from winning it in the first place. Every opponent wants a piece of you. Every fixture carries an extra level of expectation, and Arsenal now have to balance the Premier League with the Champions League and the domestic competitions. Now that means squad depth is going to be absolutely crucial, and this is where I'm particularly interested in the new Arsenal. Christos Tzolis caught the eye. There was energy, movement and creativity from him, and he was involved in the build-up to Arsenal's first two goals. Now I know there is already a conversation among supporters about what this means for Gabriel Martinelli. And I'm not going to pretend that one good performance suddenly settles the debate. It does not. But competition is healthy. If Tzolis can genuinely push Martinelli, if Martinelli responds, and if both players raise their level because they know they have to fight for their place, Arsenal benefits. That is what I want to see. I do not want Arsenal buying players simply because the fan base is anxious. I want competition. I want players fighting for their places. And I want Mikel Arteta to have the luxury of making difficult decisions because he has good options. That is what a championship squad should look like. And then we have the midfield. Something is reassuring about seeing Arsenal with options. The ability to introduce players like Martin Zubimendi and Mikel Merino from the bench gives you an idea of the depth Arteta now has available to him. And then there's Ezri Konsa, the latest addition to the squad. We've already seen the signing, the arrival, and of course those rather memorable brown jeans and Timberlands. That outfit deserves its own tactical analysis, but jokes aside, what matters is what Konsa brings on the pitch. Arsenal are building a squad that appears increasingly capable of handling the demands of a long season, and that is what gives me hope. Not simply the 3-0 scoreline, not simply the fact that we got 3 points. It is the possibility that Arsenal have enough quality to maintain standards when injuries arrive, when fixtures pile up, and when the Champions League starts demanding attention. Because there will be difficult moments, so there will be games where Arsenal do not play particularly well. There will be injuries, there will be suspensions, there will be moments when we wonder why Arteta has made a particular substitution. Now football be that. The question is whether this Arsenal squad is strong enough to absorb those moments without losing its identity. Against Coventry, the early signs were encouraging, but let's keep our feet on the ground. This was Coventry. They're back in the Premier League after a long absence, and the reward for returning to the top flight was an opening fixture against the defending champions at the Emirates. That's not exactly the gentlest welcome back to the Premier League. So I'm not going to sit here after one match and declare Arsenal unbeatable. Absolutely not. There are much tougher examinations ahead. The away games will tell us more. The matches against Manchester City and Liverpool will tell us more. The Champions League will tell us much more. And then there's the question of whether Arsenal can maintain this level when the calendar becomes congested. But for match day 1, I am happy. Very, very happy indeed. 3 goals, a clean sheet, 3 points. A captain on the score sheet, Saka on the score sheet, Havertz on the score sheet. New players making an impression, and yes, your man got his prediction right. So I'll take that. But there's something else I want from this Arsenal team this season. I want standards. I want the mentality of champions. I want Arsenal to stop looking like a team that is grateful to have arrived and start looking like a team that expects to remain at the top. Because winning the title was wonderful, but defending it is where the real character of this team will be tested. And perhaps this is what I like most about the Coventry game. Arsenal did not look like a team still celebrating last season's achievement. They looked like a team that had already turned the page. The title is ours. If you want it, come and take it. And that, my fellow Gunners, is the mentality I want to see throughout the season. There will be setbacks, there will be criticism, there will be arguments over team selection, transfers, substitutions, and inevitably VAR. There will be days when I am probably emotional myself. But if Arsenal can maintain the discipline, depth, and hunger that we saw in this opening game, then I believe we have every reason to be optimistic. The Premier League title defense has begun. 3-0, prediction correct, 3 points in the bag, and Arsenal have made their first statement. I do wonder whether Uncle Righty and perhaps a section of the fan base are getting a little too emotional about the Gabriel Martinelli situation. I understand the sentiment. Martinelli has been a good servant to Arsenal. He's given us some important moments. And nobody wants to see a player who has won the shirt with commitment simply pushed out of the door without proper respect or clarity. Ian Wright has now publicly said that the treatment of Martinelli makes him uncomfortable and that the player deserves more respect. But football is also a business, and sentiment cannot be the only consideration. He's approaching the final year of his contract, and Arsenal have now invested £34 million in Christos Tzolis, who looked very comfortable on the left in the opening day 3-0 win over Coventry. If the manager believes Tzolis offers more of what he currently wants from that position, then Martinelli's situation has to be assessed on footballing and financial grounds and not simply because we like the player. We have to be consistent. If we're going to argue that Martinelli must be protected because he's been part of the Arsenal journey, what do we say about players who've come through Haaland and have not been afforded the same patience? Reece Nelson is the obvious example. Here is another Arsenal Academy product who has spent years trying to establish himself, going out on loan, coming back, getting opportunities, and then finding himself surplus to requirements. Arsenal are reportedly looking to move him on again this summer. So I'm not saying Martinelli should be sold. I'm saying we should separate affection for the player from the football decision. If Arsenal genuinely believe there's a better use of the squad and the wages, then that decision should be made. Equally, if they are keeping Martinelli, then play him and give him a proper opportunity. What does not help anybody is this strange limbo where the player is neither clearly in the manager's plans nor clearly on his way out. And if Martinelli goes and Tzolis is now the preferred option on that side, who actually deputizes for Tzolis? Are we bringing somebody else in, or does Arteta believe there's enough already in the chamber? Because this is where I think Arsenal supporters need to look beyond the emotion of one player's departure and examine the squad construction. Tzolis looked excellent against Coventry, but it's one Premier League game. We have a long season ahead. Champions League football, domestic cups, and the inevitable injuries and suspensions. Arsenal cannot go into a campaign defending the title with one recognized option for every position and simply hope everybody stays fit. The club's hierarchy has already indicated that it remains open to further additions, particularly in attack. Maybe the answer is already inside the squad. Maybe we can rotate players across the front line and give some of the younger lads opportunities. Maybe somebody like Max Dowman eventually gets thrown into the conversation. But if Tzolis is going to be the principal left-wing option and Martinelli leaves, I would want to know what the contingency plan is before we start celebrating the transfer fee. That for me is the real Martinelli conversation. It should not be about whether Arsenal are being cruel to a player we like. It should be about whether Arsenal are making the right football decision, whether the squad remains balanced after that decision, and whether we are finally going to be consistent about how we judge academy products versus expensive signings. Because if Martinelli goes and we discover 3 months later that we are desperately looking for somebody to cover Tzolis, then we will have another conversation altogether. So apparently, Americans are looking for an English Premier League team to support. Well, America, allow me to save you some time. Support Arsenal. You get history, ambition, style, proper football culture, and a club that actually gives you something to believe in. We're talking about one of England's great clubs, a club with tradition but also a serious eye on the future. And yes, we play football properly. And then there's Tottenham. Joe, please, if you're American and somebody tells you Spurs are the team to support, check whether that person actually likes you. Why would you voluntarily sign up for a lifetime of disappointment when Arsenal are right there? At Arsenal, you get the Emirates, not London, the red and white, the history, the songs, the drama, the hope, the heartbreak, and increasingly, the expectation that we should actually win things. You're not just picking a team, you're joining a story. So to all our new American friends, welcome to the Premier League. Choose wisely. Choose Arsenal. And if anyone tries to sell you Tottenham, walk away. That's not a football recommendation. That person not like you at all. Dear Arsenal hate watcher, well, that was awkward, wasn't it? You spent the summer waiting for the slip-up, the dodgy transfer, the evidence that Arsenal were going to bottle it again. And then the season starts, Arsenal win 3-0, and suddenly, everybody needs to have a very quiet word with themselves. I know you watched. Of course you did. You probably watched the highlights twice just to make sure we really did score 3. And that's fine, honestly, keep watching, because this is the thing about Arsenal now. We're no longer asking for permission to be taken seriously. There's expectation, there's pressure, there's ambition. And there's a group of players who look like they actually believe they can go and finish the job. One game doesn't win you the Premier League, obviously. We know that. But one game can tell you something. It can tell you whether a team looks prepared. It can tell you whether the manager has his players switched on. It can tell you whether the squad has the mentality to start strongly. And Arsenal look ready. So to the people already sharpening their knives, I have a little suggestion. Relax. There are 37 league games left. You're going to need stamina, because if you're going to hate watch Arsenal all season, you're going to have to keep up. We'll see you next weekend. And the weekend after that. And the one after that. As we look ahead to what promises to be another fascinating season, we want to hear from you, the Arsenal family. What are your hopes and expectations for the Gunners this season? Are you expecting another Premier League title? How far can this team go in Europe? Which players do you think will make the biggest difference? And when we get to the end of the season, what would make you say, yes, that was a successful campaign? Whether you've been listening to Up Gunners from the beginning or you've only just found us, this is your invitation to join the conversation. Send us your thoughts, your predictions, and your aspirations for Arsenal this season. Your voice could become part of a future episode. Hit the link in the show notes. It's speakpipe.com/UpGunnersPodcast. Until next time, Up Gunners!